Hello, and thank you for joining us for this Repair Shop Websites webinar, Shop Owners Survey, What They Told Us About Marketing and Recruiting. My name is Martin Morgan, and I am the Marketing Director for Repair Shop Websites, and I've got a lot of data and information to share with you during this webinar, so I'm going to go ahead and get started after one quick announcement. If you do have any questions throughout the course of the webinar, please feel free to use either the chat box or the questions box to post your question. And at the end of the presentation, I'll take a look in there and try to answer any questions that I can at that time. So please utilize that functionality, and I'm happy to answer any questions. All right, here we go. So one of the things I like to do at the beginning of any sort of presentation that I do is talk a little bit about the road that we plan to travel today. We will be talking about marketing techniques, and most of that will come directly from our survey of shop owners. That'll lead into a little information regarding differentiators before we look at some of the numbers related to the recruiting questions we asked on our survey, and then spend some time talking about how to stand out in a very difficult and competitive job market. Before I get into all of that, though, I want to spend just a quick minute looking at the shop owners that took our survey here. And so on the left, you find a note about the town and city of the shop where it's located. And on the right, you see how many vehicles are serviced by your shop each month. So this, as you look at it, gives you a good cross-section, and we feel really good about the participation in the survey based on how this represents a close proximity to the industry in general when it comes to repair shops. So just wanted to share this with you to give you an idea of who all participated in the survey. So one of the first questions that we ask is what marketing techniques were the shops using specifically? And as you can see on here, the top one is online search. And that's 78% of the shops that took the survey told us that they were actively using online search. Then next comes social media postings at 69%. Community-based sponsorship or events come in at 62%. Physical advertising or traditional advertising, you're going to hear me go back and forth referencing that one, is at 58%. And then we have emails at 54% and mailings, otherwise known as direct mail, coming in at 46%. So of those, we asked which marketing technique is most effective at bringing in new customers, and far and away the winner on this one was online search at a big 57% mark. So you might think that we tried to encourage people to pick online search. We did not do that. We want this data as much as anybody else. So this is key for us. But of course, we're happy to see this because in large part, this is what we help shops with. And then physical advertising is 14%, or traditional advertising. Mailings and community sponsorships pretty close there. And then social media postings and emails, which emails, that makes sense. You're probably not as likely to have a bunch of emails for customers that you don't have. So with that being low at 3% makes a lot of sense. What you might have is you may ask your current customer list for referrals, and they may refer via email. So that might happen in that way, but that you certainly understand how that happens. And when we compare our 2019 numbers to 2018, you can see online search was number one on both of those. It has grown a little bit from last year where it was 48%, now up to 57%. The traditional media or physical advertising, as we called it this year, that jumped up a little bit from 10% to 14%, although I guess if you look at that, that's almost a 50% jump. We had mailings here, relatively the same. Community-based sponsorships or events, relatively the same. And then last year, we combined emails and social media postings. whereas this year we broke those up into separate things. I should certainly say there are lots of different marketing techniques that you could use to get your name out there and try to attract new customers and get existing customers back. We certainly can't cover them all. We try to include in the survey the ones that we think are likely to be the most popular without giving so many options that nobody wants to take the survey. So, here's what we think are likely to be the most popular options. So moving from new customers to existing customers, again, we asked which marketing technique is most effective at bringing in existing customers. For this one, online search won again, although not by the margins it certainly did for new customers. It came in at 36%. Then we have physical advertising, mailings, and emails all coming in right in those mid-teens, and then social media posting at 9%, and community-based sponsorships or events at the 7%. And so when you look at this compared to 2018, one of the things we didn't do well in 2019 that we did in 2018 is we included customer programs in 2018. We did not include that in 2019, in part because we are trying to focus more on just what the specific technique was, not so much on from a program standpoint. So you can see part of how that got distributed. That was number one last year. You see it's probably part of that went into mailings. Well, that was about the same last year and this year, but it got distributed. Physical ads, traditional. You can see email. Again, last year we had that combined with social media. That got pulled out by itself this year and is 15%. And then community similarly was about the same, 7%. But again, on existing customers, we've got online search as number one, traditional advertising or physical ads came in about half of that at 17%, mailings and emails roughly along the same line as traditional advertising. One of the things that I thought was valuable to take a look at is of those who use the technique, what percentage say it is most effective either for new or existing. So this gives you an idea of ultimate effectiveness. We've got our big list of techniques used, and how does that compare as far as effectiveness? And if you look at that, so most effective for new, almost 73% of those who told us they used online search said that was most effective for getting new. Physical ads or traditional advertising also did fairly well. 24% of those who use it said it was most effective. Direct mail also at almost 22% of those who said they used it see that as most effective for getting new customers in the door. When we look at existing, online search, again, fares pretty well at 45%. And then this is another place where you see direct mail doing well at more than a third of those who use direct mail for existing customers feel like that's most effective. And traditional advertising at 29%. So this one is much more evened out with the feel that those that are using it feel like it's most effective. You would think in some ways that you're going to continue to use those things that are proving to be effective, and you're going to stop using those things that are no longer effective. But we all know that that's not exactly how it works out. Relevant thing like that, as we think of ourselves as consumers, is that gym membership that somebody might get with all good intentions at the beginning of January, that by October they haven't used it in 4 months, but they're still paying that monthly fee. So, some of that happens here, but there are other factors as well. And I'm going to address two of those on the next two slides in community sponsorships and social media. So as we have community sponsorships on here, it's definitely important to note that community sponsorships are always a good idea. To whatever level you can participate in your community, whether that's sponsoring kids' sports teams or other sports teams for that matter, or supporting a not-for-profit, being part of a chamber of commerce, any other local sponsorships that you might have to your ability. We applaud all of that because it's definitely important. And for the most part, you're most likely not just doing those things just to get customers. Like you might be sponsoring, a banner at some sort of local event in part to help you get customers. But overall, it's goodwill in part. But what I would encourage you to do is, as you do those things, certainly include them on your website and/or like GMB postings or Facebook postings. And if you can, ask the groups for links to your website for anything that you sponsor, because that'll also help you from an SEO standpoint. So two other ways to take advantage of community sponsorships. And then social media. So social media, while it was the second most used, it ended up being the second least effective for new and the second least effective for existing. So a good number of people using social media, but not a lot of people feeling like that's most effective for those two things. And in part, a lot of that makes sense. Social media is not really to be used just for promotion. You really want to provide value to your followers. If you want to think about it like 80-20, so 80% of the things that you post should be value providing, while 20% can be a little more promotional. So and in that 80%, those are things like tips and tricks, what you should have in your emergency bag that you keep in your vehicle, how to know if you need to get your tires replaced, signs of a battery that's about to die, anything like that you can share and really help people is going to be effective. And then engagement opportunities. So maybe you post something about National Cookie Day and ask people what their favorite cookie is. There's multiple different ways that you can do that. But what you're doing when you're doing that is you're creating more of a relationship with potential customers and current customers. You're giving them a reason to pay attention to you. Again, as consumers, we don't really like it when somebody continuously is like banging on us and saying, hey, are you ready to buy? Are you ready to buy? Are you ready to buy? But sometimes in business, we lose sight of those things that bother us as consumers. And if all we're doing is promoting on social media, that's basically what we're doing, and we're giving people a reason to shut us off. So what you want to do is continue to provide value, so they think of you as, oh yeah, that's right, that's the shop that had all these cool tips and tricks, or this really fun post that they had where there was a lot of engagement. And then also from a social media standpoint, it's not likely to be a primary source of direct business. But it's a complement to everything. So it's continuously getting your name out there, especially if you're giving people a reason to really engage with you. One of the other things that we asked was, what marketing techniques do you believe will be most effective for your shop in the coming 2 years? Interestingly, 19% of the answers we got on that had some reference to social media. So we just talked about social media. Obviously, shop owners see that just growing as far as what will be used in order to attract new business and existing customers back into the shop. And then I had to chuckle at this answer. Somebody wrote, texting, we do not email now. Your survey is 5 years out of date. And the reason I had to laugh is because 54% of the people who took the survey said that they're currently using email. So, it's funny there. And I understand. And texting is a great way to communicate with your customers. But what I would say is you want to be careful if you plan on using that for marketing. A lot of consumers are they're less receptive to that. They may be a little bit offended. Love to communicate. If somebody's scheduled for an appointment, confirming that through text, communicating with them through that whole process, great. But if you're marketing, you just want to be cautious with your customers to make sure it's not something they're going to be offended by. And then this was a really good answer. We use all of the tactics listed. We raised our marketing budget to 5% of desired sales this year and are going to have our best year ever in our company's 56 years history. So we love to see those good stories as well. I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we want to cover is differentiators, and one of the ways we get to that is by asking this question: what do the shops emphasize in marketing? So we asked which factor is used most frequently in your marketing. Work quality and customer service, far and away, number one and two. Work quality, 45% of the shop owners referenced that. Customer service was 30%. And you can see some of the others here at certainly small numbers, right? So we're going to talk about customer service in a couple minutes here, but what I want to do before we talk about that specifically is mention one thing related to work quality. It certainly makes really good sense to use that frequently. We also did a consumer survey in early 2019, and 53% of the consumers that we surveyed said that quality of service is one of the most important factors in selecting an auto repair shop. So without a doubt, work quality is important. But I want to take a slide to look at 4 out of the 5 on the bottom here. We're not going to talk about price because I wouldn't really encourage you to emphasize price, because you're typically just going to attract the people that want to pay the least and are going to leave you as soon as somebody else is willing to offer less. But I do want to look at the other 4. So convenience, 0 people said that they use convenience most frequently. And this may be a missed opportunity. Now, we did ask most frequently, so we don't ask, do you ever use convenience? But convenience is a big deal. We see this right now as consumers and in the consumer market, right? Make it easy for me. Whatever's easiest is what I'm going to do. So, home delivery of groceries, Amazon dropping stuff off in 2 hours. How can I make things as easy as possible? So if you can offer convenience to customers, I would really encourage you to emphasize that. So that might be, super quick check-in, or check-in before ahead of time online. It might be shuttles to the local businesses wherever you need to go. It might be loaner cars. Whatever you can do to make it really convenient for somebody to get there, to check in, and then to be on with their day, whatever that means, that's going to make a big difference. So if you have those things, talk about convenience. Location is another thing with only 1%, and I think that some shops are going to have an opportunity to emphasize locations and some won't. If you're close to a college and you can try to attract people from the college, more often you're going to think students, but that's also a whole bunch of professors and other people that are there. Location is a big deal. Again, it kind of ties into convenience. If you're close to a major employer, you can emphasize location. If you're close to like shopping and restaurants or something like that, you can emphasize that. Drop off your car and enjoy your day while we take care of everything you need on the car. So think about location and what opportunity you may have there. Services performed. Clearly, this is one of those things. If you're the only shop in town that offers a specific service or services a specific type of car, you definitely want to hit at that and target the market that's going to be more likely to be focused on that. And then reviews. I was surprised that we only had 10% of those who said they emphasize reviews, because reviews is a great opportunity to really emphasize, and I'll show you some examples of that in a minute. So we also asked a question, and it was an open box, so it wasn't pick one of these 5. What makes your shop stand out from other shops to customers in your area? And again, this is targeting differentiators. So what makes you different? What makes you special? Why should somebody choose you over the other shops? What we found, and this wasn't a big surprise, but 33% of folks said customer service. Now, a lot of people, a lot of businesses will claim customer service, even though that's not necessarily the best thing to claim. And a big part of that is because everybody can claim it. So if everybody's claiming customer service, does that really put you above anybody else? Not likely, right? So you just want to be careful about that. And we'll talk about that on the next slide. Few answers here that particularly like because they're specific. We go the extra mile, like Wi-Fi in the waiting area, and rides to work or home. We do it all and have a super clean dealer quality shop, including weight room and restrooms, free shuttle service, and loaners. So very specific stuff that you can really say, okay, well, this is great. They're really emphasizing these things. I mentioned customer service, and we talked about how there are so many people who will claim customer service, and aspects of that make a difference here. And part of that is because it's hard to quantify, at least in the past. So if everybody's claiming customer service, you can't get an advantage by claiming that because you look just like every other shop. So what can you do if you do feel like you've got a proven history of really strong customer service? Well, here's a few things that you can do, and these came through for some of our answers. And you see there's a big clue over here on the right with the Google and the 5 stars. 5-star reviews. If you have a lot of 5-star reviews, you can quantify that. When we'll see an example in a second. 4.7 rating on Google customer service. What is your rating on your Google reviews? 4.7 is a really good rating. We have the most Google reviews out of any other shop in town and have a 4.8-star rating. I really like that one. I really do like that one because they have the most and a really high rating. So that really shows, the quality of their customer service. So that's a great way to quantify. Again, if you can quantify these things, you stand out. And then here's another way to do that. 98% of vehicles complete same day and over 700 5-star reviews. 700 5-star reviews. That is a ridiculous number. You don't need 700. But if you have a good number of reviews, you've got a good number of 5-star reviews, you've got a high rating, any of those things help you quantify customer service in a way that your competition is not likely to do. So instead of just generically claiming customer service, you've got some numbers that you can use. And remember, really, 5-star reviews or just reviews in general, especially Google reviews, so many consumers these days make their decisions based on Google reviews that you really want to make sure you're making the best use of that. All right, now we're going to make the transition from marketing over to hiring and recruiting. And a big piece of this is that there are far too many of these signs out there, especially if you are one of them that are trying to recruit in this market. What we really sought to do when we did this survey was to quantify some of the challenges, because we've heard for many years now, really, that hiring techs is extremely difficult, but I'm not sure, at least on our side, that we've been able to really define how difficult it is. And before we look specifically at recruiting, I want to spend just a minute on this other question that we asked, which is how often do your technicians receive training on new technology or equipment? And part of the reason we wanted to ask this is to give a baseline for everybody to share, but also, if you're one of those who do more than typical, then that might be an advantage for you from a recruiting standpoint. And what we found on here, you look on the left there, 44%, 2 to 3 times a year. Bottom right, we've got 39%, 4 times a year or more. And basically what that's telling us is 83% of shops train their techs on new technology or equipment at least 2 times a year. So if you're one of those shops that do significantly more than that, hey, that's great. If you're one of the shops that do less than that, you might be at risk of losing somebody who's going to move to a place where they're going to get more training and advance their skills. Now, here we go. How many shops are actively hiring techs? 70%. That is a big number. That is a really big number, and that shows why, in part, it's so challenging to recruit techs. If 70% of all the shops are hiring techs, it is definitely a employee market, right? So they control the market for the most part, unless you want to be super competitive and offer a lot. And you can see, so how does that, whether it's a shortage or just a challenge because everybody's hiring, it's probably all of the above. but how is that really affecting shops? And what we found is that 37% of the shops in our survey said that they have had to turn away work because of too few employees. So 37%, that's a really big number. So these are probably not things that are new news to any of you on the webinar. This is a huge challenge, and we don't have many answers for you. But what we can tell you is, there's a lot of shops out there that are experiencing the same thing. We did ask about recruiting techniques as well. You see, there's a lot of shops doing a lot of things here. As far as online advertisements or job postings, that was the most popular at 79%. Using the professional network to get the word out about the position, 67%. Recruiting from nearby high schools or technical schools, 46%. And then internships and referral incentives for employees are both right around 35%. So a lot of this is probably mix and match, and there's no silver bullet, as many of you have found, and a lot of it is just doing everything that you can to try to get the attention. So a few things here. How can you stand out among shops in recruiting? If 70% of the shops in the United States are recruiting techs, what can you do really to stand out or to get a leg up on the competition as far as recruiting great techs? I want to share this. This model is one that I hope that you'll find very helpful. And this is a marketing model, really, the ADA model, which focuses on awareness, interest, desire, and action. And if some of you, if you've gone to some sort of sales training or read sales type books, you probably recognize this as it's very similar to many pipeline type models, whether it's marketing or sales. But what you want to do is you want to take those who are not aware, make them aware. Once you get them aware, you want to make them interested. Once you've got them interested, you want to create that desire so they want to take the next step. And then you want them to take the action that you want them to take, whether it's to buy a product or a service or to choose to be your employee. And I think one of the key things here is if you dissect it really in a step-by-step process, you're selling somebody into the next step instead of trying to take them directly from, hey, we've got an open position. Do you want to accept the position? So how does this break down? Awareness. Trying to take somebody that's not aware, try to create as much awareness as possible. And a lot of this is really just one-to-many. So always be recruiting. No matter what, at all times, as the leader of your organization, it's your responsibility to always be recruiting. So that's talking about your shop. That's talking about your culture. That's always sharing good things with people that are in your neighborhood, in your community, in the groups that you're involved with, all of those things. With your employees, with your friends, with your family, always have a quick ability to talk about those things. You're trying to raise awareness. The other piece of that is talking with those people who might be candidates for you, even if you don't have a job opening, right? So part of that is knowing that if somebody leaves, you've got somebody ready to fill the position. If something happens to somebody, you've got somebody ready to fill that position. You don't want to turn away work because you don't have the people. You want to be able to make a quick transition. So by always recruiting, it's going to increase the likelihood that you can do just that. So now you've got the awareness and you want to drive people to interest. And the way that you do that is you emphasize your advantages. On many different things through webinars, podcasts, our blogs, we've talked about how independent repair shops have advantages when it comes to recruiting techs. And one of the big ones is a lot of independent repair shops are just open Monday through Friday. You people work hard, but you're open Monday through Friday, so people will have the weekend off. Certainly in contrast to dealerships which are open 7 days a week, and some of them, depending on where you are open 24 hours a day. That certainty, that ability to have all the weekends off, to not have to work nights, all of those things are really appealing. So emphasize that as an advantage if that's the case for your shop. And then also, what are those other things that you have going on that are an advantage? What special things do you do for employees? What is your culture like? What is it like in your shop? Is it a great teamwork atmosphere? Does that work well? Do you do a special thing where you bring in lunch for everybody, let's say on a Friday, or let's say you do a special, after work type of a thing? Any of those things that are an advantage that you can bring to the table for your shop. What makes you different? Similar to differentiators to bring people in, this is a differentiator to bring potential employees in. And then you've got the interest, you want to drive it to desire. And this is where we do a little bit of a 180. So instead of thinking about just your shop, think about the person themselves. Try to understand their motivation. What is going to make them most likely to want to choose you as their next place of employment, and really stick there for a long time. So try to understand that motivation as much as possible. If it's somebody who really loves the opportunity to learn more, then talk about your training program. If it's somebody that clearly has an ambition and wants to rise through the ranks, and you've got an opportunity where you've got levels that is going to support their rise through the ranks, then talk about promotion. If it's somebody that really is into training and maybe education, and you're willing to send them to training a couple times a year, then you really want to highlight that. If it's somebody that needs flexibility in their schedule and that's something that you can provide, then talk about how you can provide them that. The key to the desire is really helping somebody realize within themselves that this is something that they want. So again, on desire, you're focusing it a lot more on the potential employee than you are on your shop. And then the final step really is action. And many of you know that if you've done the first three pieces right on, then the action is the easiest one. People walk themselves right into action. All it is asking for the sale, offering the job, and knowing that you've done a great job in the first part and that the person is going to take action. But obviously that is a key piece as well. If you're a little bit unsure and you can do a little something in that job offer that is really going to seal the deal, then by all means do that. Okay, so 3 key takeaways. And typically on this slide, I might put cupcakes, 3 cupcakes, or 3 something, but I felt like, it's for some of you, it's going to be lunchtime, so I kind of apologize for showing this, but I really thought it'd get your attention. And so when you think, oh, what was that on that webinar? Oh, that steak. And then you're going to remember at least two of these next things we've already talked about, or maybe all 3. But 3 key takeaways. Online search. From our survey, our shop owners told us that online search was most effective in attracting new customers and existing customers. Differentiators. You really want to think through your differentiators. What makes your shop stand out? If you haven't spent the time to do this yet, I encourage you to do so. If it's been a while since you've done it, I encourage you to do so. And I also encourage you to do this both from the marketing and sales side to customers, and then also on the recruiting side for potential employees. What makes you a special employer? What makes you stand out from the other shops in the area? Why should somebody decide that they want to come work at your shop? And then also, when it comes to recruiting, I want you to think about the AIDA model: awareness, interest, desire, action. And sometimes what I'll do as I'm thinking about this from a marketing standpoint is draw this out. This group is in this section. How do we try to move them to the next section? If it helps, you can think about doing the same thing. I've got these people kind of in the pipeline for openings. How do I move them to the next section? What is going to matter the most to this person? Who might I choose, and how do I try to fast track that? But think about making those small steps, those small sales, and instead of trying to make one huge sale. All right, about repair shop websites. We have more than 2,500 repair shop customers and 15 years of experience building and managing websites for repair shops. We have an exclusive focus on auto repair with 0 contracts, 0 added costs for customer support, and websites made live in 3 business days, and often much less than that. Okay, we are now at the Q&A section. I'm going to take a quick look here at questions that have been asked. Let's see. Oh boy. Well, this is great. Unfortunately, my question box is minimized. Here you go. Okay, good question here. Do you have any insight on techniques for online search that are working? Paid ads, SEO, blog posts, reviews, or basically everything combined? Yeah, so different things are going to work for different people, and I would never tell anybody to stop doing something that's working for them. So if you are doing paid ads and that's working great for you, then by all means continue to do paid ads. But I would definitely say two things, and maybe 3, that I think all work together that are really important. And that is your Google My Business profile. You want to do as much as you possibly can with that, because that's gonna show Google that you're serious, that you're a business that's operable, that's active, and they're gonna reward you for that. That includes reviews in large part, but that's also going to help you in the local pack, which is important. And then also, you tie that in, you've got your GMB, your reviews, and website SEO, because those things all tie together. So your website's going to help you some in the local pack. Your reviews are going to help you in the local pack. Your Google My Business is going to help your website. Your reviews can potentially help your website, and your website's going to help your reviews, and it can help your Google My Business. So you think of all those 3 things working together can be really effective from that standpoint. Here's another question. Should we be on Instagram? Really good question. So what I would say, and and this kind of feeds into the last question as well, if your audience is on Instagram, if the people you're trying to get into your shop are on Instagram, then yeah, I would say be on Instagram. But do it well. Don't spread yourself too thin and get involved in 5 different social medias and then only do it haphazardly and not effectively. I would much rather that you took the time to be really good on one of them and focus on that than to be not good at any of them. So, be focused, but if your audience is on Instagram, then go ahead and get on Instagram. We've heard great things from some shops who utilize Instagram. One of the shops I had talked to not too long ago, they do specialty tires and wheels, and their audience all on Instagram, and the gentleman who owned the shop said that's his #1 source of customers. So, think about where your audience is and think about ways to reach them. All right, that's all the questions I have time for today. But my email, phone number, our website, all on the screen right now. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. If you have questions about what we talked about today, what I talked about today, I'm happy to talk in more detail or shoot, correspond via email, any of those things. Let me know any way that I can be of help, any way we can be of help. Reach out to us, because that's what we're here for, really, ultimately, is to help shops. So let us know if we can be of help. Thank you for spending time with me today in this webinar, and I hope that you have an excellent rest of the day.